I'm going to show you how to calculate the optimum battery for the 3 most popular kayak fish finders. This one, and that one. In this video, I'm not going to get into how to pick the best fish finder because that's unique to each one of us in terms of where we fish, how we fish, whether we want down imaging or side imaging. That's all immaterial to how to select the best battery for the specific fish finder you end up thinking is the right one for you. And so the first question you have to ask is, how long are you going to be using that fish finder on a typical trip? Because the hours it's on translates to an electrical power requirement. So let's look at these top 3 fish finders and assess how much electricity they draw. And let's assume we have a typical 6-hour fishing trip where the finder is going to be on 100% of the time. Let's get into it. Let's start with the Garmin because it is the most demanding in terms of power draw. On a steady state basis, it draws 1.0 amps, but it can surge up to 1.5 amps. So you need to kind of estimate based on some middle ground, maybe 1.15 amps. And let's use that as we go forward in the subsequent calculations. Now the Lowrance draws 0.9 amps per hour. So that's a little bit better, which means that you can have a less capable battery by a little bit to make that thing operate for 6 hours. But the best option in terms of power draw is the Humminbird Helix, the 5-inch model. The Helix draws a miserly 615 milliamps or 0.615 amps to make it consistent with everything else. The calculation is pretty simple, as you can see from right up here. You just take the capacity of your battery and divide it by the draw, and then we can see for these top 3 fish finders how long that they would last using that simple but not quite accurate calculation, because it doesn't take into consideration something that exists in all batteries called depth of discharge. Depth of discharge is important because it tells you what is the usable capacity of your battery. And so as you can see here, a lead acid battery rated at 10 amp hours only has 5 amp hours of usable capacity. So when you apply that to the math we just did, you can see the numbers are very different. Now lithium has a huge advantage. Nominally, you only want to use 80% of the capacity, but as we all know from using power tools that just stop working every once in a while after you've been using them for a while, you can run them all the way down to 0, but you probably really shouldn't. So for our calculations, we'll use that industry guidance of 80%, and then we'll rework the figures and then compare some pricing, and you're going to be surprised at how affordable a lithium battery can be and give you that additional capacity you need. Let's look at some actual batteries and assess their capability against our fish finder requirement. I went to Batteries Plus, and here are the top 3 options I found in the appropriate amp hour range. And we can just disregard those 5 amp hour ones because the 12 amp hour costs about the same. So when you redo the calculations, you can see that even with the 50% depth of discharge, that would last for the entire trip. But Batteries Plus has a huge caveat on the website that says these batteries can only be recharged between 50 and 500 times. Well, what if it's closer to 50 times than 500? Do you really want to have to go out and buy the battery again after 50 or 100 charges? And that's why you need to look at the lithium options that are priced about the same as the sealed lead acid. I'm a fan of the goldenmate 10 amp hour because of its bargain price, the fact that it's UL certified, and being lithium, it has that 80% depth of discharge factor and can be recharged thousands and thousands of times. So here are the two options we really come down to. Do you want to buy old technology with a lead acid battery, or do you want to upgrade to modern lithium batteries at about the same price with all the advantages that are baked in terms of depth of discharge, number of charging cycles, lightweight and low form factor, and things like that. Now, there are plenty of other 10 amp hour options out there, but for all those, you really need to make sure that they have a BMS and that they are certified. We've all heard about batteries exploding and burning up. The certification protects you to a certain extent from that bad occurrence. So there you go. What are your experiences with lithium batteries? If you've got some comments, please throw them down below. Thanks.